Hi there, everybody. I'm Dan Joseph with MRC TV. I am here with the Peter Schiff, host of the Peter Schiff Show. Now, you may know him from a video that actually got so many hits it collapsed our site. You were in Zuccotti Park at the same time we were, and you were flaunting the fact that you were the 1%.
Yes.
And you engaged, I've never seen anything quite like it, you engaged these people in Zuccotti Park, the occupiers, and you basically beat every single one of their arguments down. It was so impressive.
What do you think my fair share is? What percent of my income do you think would be fair? No. Just give me a percentage.
No, 0.5%.
What percent?
Marginal.
So you think it? Hold on. What do you think? What do you think would be fair if for me to pay?
Raising rates.
But what do you think is fair?
National average runs close to 17%. A whole bunch of people, about 50%.
Okay,
don't pay
but how much do you think I should pay? What would be fair for me?
I don't know what
Just
your
guess.
income is. I can't tell you that.
Well, what do you?
I believe in a
How about the same as everybody else?
What should I pay? Okay, well,
Like
I'm paying
35%.
All right, well, that would be a huge tax cut for me.
Now, since that's happened, what is the reaction been
Well,
to
it's not that impressive. Their arguments are very weak. Just about anybody can beat them
Yeah,
down.
but when you have 30 of them surrounding you and they're just yelling things out.
Well, just because they have numbers doesn't make them right. I mean, if you're saying something stupid, it doesn't matter if it's 1 people or 100. It's just as stupid. So, and it's pretty easy to refute. I mean, people have been coming up with these socialistic arguments for a long time. I mean, you pretty much have to have a childlike mentality to believe it. Unfortunately, so many people who have, graduated from our universities, in fact, a lot of people who are teaching at our universities are just as ignorant as the people who are occupying or did occupy Zuccotti Park.
Yeah, they're not there anymore. But I wanted to talk to you for a second. Well, since that video went on, it's got millions of hits, at least a couple million hits between our site and other sites. What's the reaction you've gotten from conservatives and liberals alike?
Well, I mean, people generally support it that have talked to me, although one guy is emailing me like every day for the last couple months asking me for money. He started out, he wanted $2 million. And then when I said how ridiculous that was, then he came back and said, okay, how about 300,000?
Why not? How about a job?
Yeah, like I would give every idiot who sends me an email, and you should have seen the whole list of things he said he would buy if I gave him the money. But apart from that, I mean, most people I've actually talked to have been positive about it. Although one of the people in the video did start calling. He was upset that he was in there and he was trying to threaten a lawsuit. And I think my office told him, look, if you're worried about what you say, don't say it in front of a camera and a microphone.
Yeah.
Because that kind of is you kind of give the you imply that yes, you can use this. It's not like we had a hidden camera and the microphone was buried somewhere. The guy knew what he was saying, so maybe he was embarrassed by the fact that he was stupid on camera instead of just somewhere where nobody could see him.
I want to ask you an economic question here. The primary argument, what it's turned into for the occupiers and what it's turned into for Barack Obama as he's adopted their message has been income inequality. The gap between the wealthy, the so-called 1% and the 99%. And I haven't really heard anybody explain why this income inequality, the so-called gap, is meaningless. Could you explain to our viewers exactly why it's not the problem?
I don't know that it's meaningless, but first of all, I mean, you got to have a gap between the rich and the poor. I mean, that's why people want to get rich, because it's a lot better than being poor.
But it doesn't affect economic growth in any way.
Well, the fact that there are rich people doesn't impoverish other people.
Right.
In fact, the way you get rich is by helping others get richer, or helping lift people out of poverty. In the free market, the way you amass wealth is by coming up with products and services that make people's lives better, and in the process you create jobs. So growing the economy means people are going to get rich. It's not something that we should try to prevent. The problem is you do have some people who got rich from government, who got rich from government intervention, from government bailouts, and some of those riches come at the expense of other people who have to foot the bill. You have some financiers on Wall Street who are giving capitalism a bad name because they're not improving the economy. They're just getting rich off of bailout money or the Fed. And in many cases, what the Fed has to do to prop up Wall Street, the cheap money, all of that actually drives down the value of the dollar, drives up prices, and that actually widens the gap between the rich and the poor. And that's not something that we want. Plus, you've got government policies that are trapping people in poverty, minimum wage laws and other types of taxes that make it harder to hire people. And the fact that we subsidize people to go to college. We have a lot of young people now drowning in debt because the government steered them to an overpriced degree, and now they've got no marketable skills but a huge mortgage and no house. So there are a lot of government programs that are making that gap a lot wider than it needs to be. And the problem is government. It's not the free market or the capitalists who are succeeding despite what the government is doing to put obstacles in their path.
The occupiers insist that the gap, the primary reason for the gap, is a concentration of wealth at the top. Is that the case, or is it the fact that people in this country in particular have the capability to grow their money very quickly, especially if they take risks and invest it?
Well, I think what the occupiers somehow believe is that the rich are rich because they're just not paying enough taxes, that somehow they're not paying their fair share, when the rich are paying a larger share of the taxes than at any time really in history. And in fact, up until 1913, there was no income taxes at all. And if people think that the rich are getting rich because they're getting off easy when it comes to government, I'll give you a statistic that very few people probably know. Of the 30 richest Americans in history, and these are self-made, so I'm not talking about their heirs, the people who started from scratch, the 30 richest Americans in history, only 3 of them were born after the Civil War. And only 1 of them was born after World War II. So it was a lot easier to get rich in America before we had all the government. And a lot of people on Occupy Wall Street like to claim that the rich got rich because of government schools and government roads and government police. No, they got rich despite those things. They got rich because they worked hard and they earned their money. It was a lot easier to do that when the government wasn't in the way. But when all these people were getting rich in the 19th century, they were growing the living standards of all Americans. We had faster economic growth in the 19th century than in the 20th, or so far in the 21st. And that was when government was tiny and nobody was paying taxes. The rich weren't paying income taxes. The middle class weren't paying income taxes because they didn't exist. And they weren't paying Social Security taxes either because those taxes didn't exist.
Another thing you hear the occupiers talk about a lot is the Buffett rule. What are your thoughts on the Buffett rule?
Well, the Buffett rule is all a sham. I mean, first of all, Warren Buffett pays a much higher rate of tax than what he admits to. See, he talks about the 15% that he pays as an individual. Well, Warren Buffett only earns 1% of his income as an individual. 99% of his income comes to him as the largest shareholder in Berkshire Hathaway. He owns a third of Berkshire Hathaway, I think a little bit more. Berkshire Hathaway is paying billions of dollars a year in taxes. They're paying tax at a 35% rate. That is Warren's money. So he's paying his taxes as a shareholder of a corporation, not as an individual, yet when he says how little taxes he's paying, he doesn't bring that up. And I'll give you another fact. Warren Buffett pays himself a nominal salary as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. Why does he do that? He does that because as the largest shareholder, and since Berkshire Hathaway trades at about a 20 times earnings, every dollar that he doesn't pay himself in salary increases his net worth by about $7 or $8. And then what he does is he sells stock. So instead of taking salary, he can sell stock and so pay capital gains. So Warren Buffett deliberately doesn't pay himself a salary so he can maximize his net worth and minimize his taxes. Yet then he's crying that he's not paying enough taxes. He is a complete hypocrite. He's paying plenty of taxes, and he goes out of his way to minimize his taxes, despite the fact that he's publicly begging for the government to tax him more. Hey, if he wants to pay more taxes, just do it. Pay yourself a salary. Pay taxes. Write a big check. Send it to the government. He's full of it. He's a hypocrite.
Are you consider yourself a libertarian? Is that right?
Yeah, a libertarian.
Are you a Ron Paul supporter?
Absolutely support Ron Paul.
Are you? He's sort of shut out of this CPAC this year.
Well, he was invited. He was on the agenda. So
okay. Do you have any idea why he decided
no,
to come?
I got a note yesterday just in a mail that he wasn't going to attend. My guess is that it has to do with politics. He's probably campaigning, and he figured the diversion over to CPAC wasn't worth the time. So I'm assuming that's...
I know there are a lot of people here who would love to see him show up. We're looking forward to seeing him show up. And he's won the straw poll the last year.
They should give me a speaking slot.
Maybe they should.
Because they didn't even invite me to speak.
Pull some strings, man. I'm sure they know you. Hey, listen, thank you so much, Mr. Schiff. We appreciate you coming in and enjoy the conference.
Sure, and thanks for helping to promote that Occupy Wall Street video.
Absolutely. It's shut down our site. Thank you for that. Take care.